So I have this friend, and he just got out of rehab, and he's now doing really well for himself. And I feel really good for him. But I'm still living with my parents, and there's like a lot of drama and resentment, and I can't help but feel that my mom would rather me have gotten addicted to benzos than World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I feel that. I had I had some trouble with WoW when I was a lad as well.
And continue to. No, actually, you're pretty good. You're
no, there's no way.
You're pretty safe. You're pretty clean.
I can't handle that.
I know, but
I'll dip my toes in, and then once I feel the.
But that's what I mean. That's the safest. That's the safe. Do you feel addicted to RuneScape?
No, I've been addicted to RuneScape in the past. I think that it's like, I don't know, I got some 99s under my belt. I've gotten those 99s on multiple different accounts.
RuneScape
it's some stuff.
Was when I was age so I played on my friend's account on WoW, and I got like cut off.
Wow.
And RuneScape was my methadone. From that point until my parents got me World of Warcraft for my 11th birthday.
That's funny.
I started.
You can get addicted to methadone
immediately.
Like it's even more addictive, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think so.
It happens. What were you saying?
I think I started a band as my methadone, but everyone has their WoW methadone.
Okay, but that's good.
Yeah, no, it was the one time I did it right. This time I got a little too deep into WoW on that private server, like in February, and then I quit.
Dude,
then I immediately just went crazy freelancing. I got addicted to World of
Warcraft.
Thank you, folks. Hell yeah.
I think like all addiction, I think the biggest issue is actually that I'm unemployed and have the time to just completely degenerate WoW all day.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
All right. And I think you're safe from that because you can't just, get up and raid TOC because you don't have a job.
It's true. Hard segue. What the fuck is this called?
We were going to do Gamers Rise Up. That's a little too on the nose.
But it's very SEO friendly.
It's very
it does
good.
work.
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
I think Gamers Rise Up works because
what about Red
it's
Team?
SEO friendly.
Red Team works, but
I like it. It's quick.
Okay,
and it works with Red Scare.
We can call our listeners.
Red Scare, there's like a million of those is the only issue. There's Red Scare, there's Red.
I'm fine with blending in.
I have a thought.
It's true.
We can be called Gamers Rise Up, but we can call our listeners the Red Team. We can be like, what's up, Red Team? Like
everyone's got to have a name for their...
Yeah. Like race cars are like the listeners of Yo Is This Racist podcast, which is a good podcast.
All right, so welcome to the Red Team podcast. We're the Gamers Rise Up.
We're gamers, yeah. Oh yeah.
My name's Gabe. I'm at Gabe Karen on Twitter.
I'm Phil Nolan at Nil Folan.
I said Gabe underscore, right?
No,
at Gabe
you didn't.
underscore.
You did not.
At Gabe underscore Karen on Twitter. I can edit those.
But it's like Karen, like Sharon.
Oh yeah, Karon.
And what do we call our other host?
I don't know.
We could do like
the name anyway.
An extended thing where we just never refer to you by any name.
That sounds good to me.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's meta because then people get curious. They'll be like, "Who the fuck is that?"
Yeah, that's the only problem is if you drum up. The reason I kind of thought that we should just go with like a regular name is like if people will get too interested and start like trying to dox you or something. Okay, if we use like a pseudonym, then like everyone would try and figure out who you were. Whereas if we just like use the name, then it's just like that's who you are.
Where I'm like, I'm Beverly. Beverly.
Do you want to I was gonna say like let's just the most waspy name on earth.
That's really funny.
Just be like, I'm Rod Breslau. No. We're joined here by Slasher.
Yeah, my girlfriend is in this vampire role playing game.
Hell yeah.
Thing, and
like a D&D sort of.
Yes, it's called Vampire the Masquerade.
I've I know what that is.
Yeah. But one of her sort of party mates is named Hank Wimbledon.
That's great.
Which is and he's this.
Because he got killed when that was a name people would have, I guess.
So. But you don't have that name outside of a country club.
Yeah, that's big white people.
That's
right.
You don't get an ethnicity.
You're just blame him. He was killed in he became a vampire in the 1600s.
I guess I don't know his full story, but presumably.
No, I don't know. Me too.
I tried to make a RuneScape account the other day, or not the other day, but months ago, named Thick Jesus. With two C's, and
which
it was taken.
A response to there's a rapper named Slim Jesus who is a 16-year-old white kid from Ohio.
Yeah,
so it's probably a direct response to that kid.
Maybe.
Well, the funniest part of coming up with incredible with like funny game names is that they're already taken, which just means that someone presumably unironically has already made the ad homie.
The name. This could only happen in Rocket League, and it's the only reason it worked here. I lost to a guy whose username was just Owen Wilson, and one of the in-game messages you can give is just wow.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just the whole game, just wow.
It's very
I
silly.
wanted to be mad because it was so just
Yeah,
right
it's like
there,
played out,
but you're
but-
just like, you
Right.
did it. You showed up.
You did do it. I know. I mean, people do that to pass the time. Like sometimes when I'm scaping, right? I'll open up my ignore list and type names into there and see if it says if it says it's a real user or
If it
not.
exists,
Yeah,
yeah.
because that's how you test it. And like I'll write in like LGBT scape or whatever, and sure enough, someone has that name.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
All right. Should we?
Well,
what
okay,
is this
so-
podcast about?
So, well, I think what I wanted to say
Damn
is
it.
like we all met each other at differing times in the melee scene in New York City. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine.
And that is how we know each other, and that is the point of view from which our what's the word?
Our praxis.
Yeah, our praxis and our disillusionment with esports as an industry stems.
Through our experiences in games, we've built relationships and had very good times. And I think that's where this comes from, where we're all mad and concerned and love to dunk on people, but it's all in the name of building a better whatever the hell this is.
Just trying to preserve the communities that brought us all together.
It's a dunk out of love. It's like we're dunking the cookies of misery into the milk.
Of cookies of
Of
misery.
podcasting.
I don't think cookies of misery is
Okay,
an analogy
all right,
that's
all
ever
right.
going to sell.
That's like Morrissey's next album.
Cookies of misery.
That was a little Gregorian chant-ish.
Yeah, but that's
Cookies of misery.
we've like
Something-
it's like ancestry.com for Morrissey's voice. That worked.
Yeah.
You just 23andMe'd that ass.
Oh, like the basic.
Right.
Where
yeah.
he got
that's,
it
that's
from.
where he got it. Yeah, that's the deep cut. He's
So,
like,
It's
I've
the
been listening to
Kermit
this.
etymology.
Yeah.
So the premise is takes about esports from people who have not completely drowned themselves in the Kool-Aid. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
Yeah, I like sip it on the reg. I'm probably the most corporate esports person here.
You bathe.
Yeah,
But-
I
Yeah.
dabble. My esports praxis is that it's like a side hustle that I refuse to make my full time because I have no faith in the industry to be stable long term, nor do I have faith in the industry at current to be organized or visionary enough to be worth
Investing.
putting my skill set fully into.
Well, yeah,
if
and
that makes sense.
I don't think that's bad. I mean, I've tried to get a bunch of esports jobs that haven't accepted me because, look, if it's all venture capitalist speculative bullshit, like it's not like immoral that money goes to me instead of someone else.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Esports is actually cool because it's fleecing venture capitalists of their money
Yeah.
that they don't deserve.
I've thought about
a-
that many a time.
Truly a double-bladed sword, and I'm here to reap all the benefits.
I was thinking about this, like, you know how there's some people on Earth who it's like their entire vision of the future is everything looks exactly the same, except instead of like, you know how like poor kids who like wouldn't go to college, they like get sports scholarships. It's like that, but League of Legends, and kids who absolutely would have gone to college otherwise. Like, if esports was a little more diverse in the people in playership, then a lot more of it would be pretty cool. But like right now, it is kind of like empowering the already most empowered communities.
Everyone who does the Orange Justice dance has to be thrown into debtor's prison
I do
under Bernie for sure.
And I'm in favor of esports re-education camps where everyone who thinks that Fortnite is like a cool esport that people should support has to just watch nothing but Tekken for like 3 years.
Oh, sweet, beautiful Tekken. So esports may or may not be, in fact, a bubble.
Oh.
I know we're going to blow
Wow.
some minds with this take. It's
Do-do-do.
fucking galactic. I won't lie.
Because I mean, I guess basically like the context of this is like the $25 million franchising fees for getting a team into the Call of Duty circuit that doesn't exist yet. The Overwatch League franchising, and I guess and LCS also pivoting to a franchise model where you have to pay to be in it. Can you
repeat for the people how much it costs to be in these things?
$25 million per team, of which there's usually like 10 or more.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any way of effectively monetizing that into, like, it's not an investment in something that you will create like a profit out of.
And it's not growth focused, right? Like, this system obviously paves the way for players to get into a professional setting. It creates a market for players to aspire to where they can make big money and play for big teams, but it does not create a market for scenes, for new orgs, for new TOs. Like, there might be talent. Like, I mean, there is talent. Overwatch League has been, for a lot of things, it's been a boon to people who are talented to get another job. So, like, for example, Tempest Rob, shouts out, is a phenomenal esports photographer who has been hired by Overwatch League to do tons of work. And he deserves it. He's a fantastic photographer. And him moving up to that and getting that sweet Blizzard money creates a vacuum underneath him for the next most talented photographers to step up. That's good on the surface, but that is not something that is happening on a significant enough scale to merit just the absurd amount of wealth being poured into this by people who are coming from the top down rather than the bottom up.
And then also like the types of people who are getting involved, like increasingly, I mean, like, I'm sure a ton of bad shit has happened at like TSM and stuff. Like these guys are all gamers, you know, none of them are good people. But like, you know,
Gamers
you don't
down.
have the same level of like what went down with Rick Fox. Like,
Which is oh my god, yeah.
yeah,
That's a
like
whole episode in and of itself, maybe.
easily. I don't even know
I
if
mean,
I have
people
the
with money are
qualifications.
just immune to the thing.
Right.
It's,
Like up until now, esports has actually, you know, like endemic is a word that people use in the industry a lot, and it has largely been endemic. Like the orgs involved have largely just been from esports, grown in esports, and expanded into other esports. And that, you know, I guess people who like are very invested in esports going mainstream will see that as like bad. But on the other hand, like, yeah, you don't have some like $1 billion wealth investor who is just like, his job is to say the N-word. Like, I don't know.
So the assertion that's been passed around this week, especially in the wake of the Call of Duty League coming to fruition, which, like I said, will have a good side to it where there's like a modicum of job creation, which is cool and exciting. But the assertion that a few people have made is that this system is too big to fail, or that these companies will rally behind this to make sure it works if it takes a decade, if it takes 2 decades, if it takes 3 decades. I cannot say confidently that this is a model that is tested and proven to work. I'm extremely skeptical of that assertion. I think there are plenty of examples of esports and quasi-esports entities in gaming that have predated this, that were built on community building, that lived within their means, and they built a community before they poured money into things. And I think that's a better way to do it.
So, and this isn't unique to him. This is like pretty much anyone with a job whose thing is like esports pundit. We'll say pretty much the same thing. So this is Slasher.
Shocked to hear that esports pundits are no better or worse than actual
And other
pundits.
pundits. Yeah, it's almost like they're very invested in the people who give them money. Franchise leagues like Overwatch League, the new Call of Duty League, and LCS will be here 20 years from now because Activision Blizzard, Riot, and its partners will never let them fail, no matter what it takes. Great, fantastic. Some of the big, that's worth unpacking on its own.
It is, because when you say, you have to think about what you mean when you say whatever it takes, because my mind immediately goes to Blizzard laying off 800 people. That is
Yeah, true.
specifically what it takes.
And
like like they did great. They hit their targets or something, or they had an immense profit but were still south of their goals and then laid off people as a result. They were a profitable, successful company poised for growth, and they still axed people because that was what it took. Great. That is an overt funneling of wealth. Like, we're all pretty leftist here. That's bad. That's bad. Money going up the tree doesn't provide for the people at the bottom who are more numerous.
Well, you also have to ask, like, at what point does a game, like, how big do you have to be too big to fail? Because Heroes of the Storm wasn't. That shit got canned fast.
What's fucked about Heroes of the Storm is that it was like, you know, the Blizzard owning the means, for lack of a better term. Like, they provided a reasonable amount of support for the esports ecosystem of HOTS, but for the most part, HOTS was a community-driven effort.
Right.
It had its own tight-knit little community. It had its own dedicated casters who were doing it pro bono at one point. Like, a lot of the talent they grabbed for HOTS was farmed up from people who were doing it on their own. And then Blizzard was like, all right, we can support this.
Yeah.
But they let that at least start from the bottom, and then they just had the power to kill it anytime they wanted, just like Nintendo does with Melee.
Or doesn't do, thankfully, with Melee, because
as soon as they grabbed it, they would, though.
Right,
Exactly.
which is why you should be worried about that. Not Melee HD would be a genuine, the most terrifying thing the community's ever had to deal with.
It's like if you do all the legwork as a community and then a company starts swooping in and supporting you, your leg muscles atrophy and your knees break, and it just...
And you just have
you
nothing.
just fall. Yeah, it's like as soon as they're gone and they stop supporting you, you fall over, you know?
It's the Wild Wild West. It's all the things we're working on are literally ephemeral. They're games. They're on a computer.
Yeah.
And they
And
can
also,
go the fuck away, which is weird to think about.
The idea that any of these things will be here like 20 years from now is so on its face ridiculous that I don't feel... like.
What's ridiculous about it is not that asserting the game can survive for 20 years. It's asserting that a game can survive in this capacity from the start for 20 years. Like, building it and they will come, I don't know about that. Like... CSGO built itself, like StarCraft built itself, which is another thing that Blizzard was like, hey, you know that thing that we could have used as a use case to be like, yes, this esport has been successful for 20 years. StarCraft, legendary, famous, very early esport, gone. Where's StarCraft, folks?
I mean, people will say it's around, but like,
But
no, but that's the thing is like, actually, I feel like all of the things that are actually like capable of just sort of balancing the amount of profit they make, and just not even off of like marketing, but even just off of like viewership and their costs, are always just completely axed in favor of things that have the capacity to generate endless speculative capital. It's making money isn't the goal. It's just being financed because there are too many people in this country with too much money.
Yeah. It's like if you make a game, put a versus mode in it, and call it an esport, suddenly you have millions of dollars in like investor funding coming in.
Right. Yeah.
You're using the buzzword.
It's like that is the goal of a lot of this. It's like when we make a game, you know, is anyone going to give a shit about it? Well, now it's an esport, and that's the next big thing.
But also specifically like what you're saying, like games that happen to have versus modes in it, as opposed to like games that have built themselves up specifically as esports. I mean, okay, so there's this story like literally today about 14 Fortnite players that like got banned because they were colluding. And I think the idea was that they were teaming with each other, which they weren't supposed to do. But it's like, I mean, kind of in itself, like a very interesting case study of like you're taking a battle royale and actually upping to the stakes. I mean, these kids are going to make like $1 million to the point of like a real battle royale, and all of the same behaviors are coming out. And then, but like none of that's supposed to happen because it's like an esport in the traditional sense.
I can't believe that 100-man event would feature people who knew each other and may work with each other.
Yeah.
That is definitely both possible to police and horribly unnatural and unacceptable.
No, and all of the people who are extremely mad about this are the people who are trying to convince you that Fortnite is a like valid esport and not just an incredibly popular casual game that people like to watch because there's a lot of expression and skill, but like this game that you can actually only measure success in over the course of like hundreds of 40-minute long matches isn't actually a great thing to put on events for.
It still completely feels like Epic wants to have their cake and eat it too, in terms of being like esports and taking advantage of calling yourself an esport while still just being like, no, we're We're here to sling that merch, boy.
I
Like,
kind
we're
of
here to-
disagree. I don't blame them. Like, a lot of people have said, like, hey, you should do this as an esport. And they're like, yeah, fuck it. I don't know. We'll piss a third of a month's revenue into it.
Yeah,
and then everyone else will sit around and say, like, wow, now that they've done this, they have to take us seriously. It's like, no, they don't. The vast majority of their playership will never give a shit about this. And they're going to continue making boomboxes or whatever people will pay money for.
I can't fault them for riding the lightning, right? Like, they made this mode and they put out the beta and everyone was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
This is sick. And to be fair, in some ways, Fortnite is both groundbreaking and really impressive. I'm not going to dog the game for the game itself, but the way they're treating it and their competitive community is demonstrative of, like, what's the point?
I don't even
Like,
think it's...
why would you as a serious competitive player ever pick this game up?
Right. And that's my thing is, like, I don't even think it's, like, impossible to create a entertaining system. Like, even just the streamers who play it every day, you know, they're watched way more than esports as a whole is in their individual 2-day events. As much as, like, I think it more comes from people in the esports industry bending over backwards to, like, pick up everything with casual appeal and force it into something that resembles what their job looks like. When, like, really we should just be running, like, actual battle royale television shows of Fortnite where, like, you have all
Never
the
say
drama
never.
of...
It's the whole thing.
Bethany Thickweenus. That's what I'm calling you for this question to frame
Okay.
it. As someone who I think you're the least esports of the three of us, which is neither an insult nor a compliment. It's just
It's a
simply,
compliment. It's a
you're-
compliment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you're-
you know, I'm
I
just
think
above
it's a
it all.
compliment.
yeah, my experience with you is that you're just kind of here to play some games that you think are cool and you don't weigh any of this ever. Like, you're never concerned with the size of a community, the relevance of it, or anything. You're kind of just doing your thing. If you're playing Toho, if you're playing RuneScape, if you're playing a modded version of some game that 12 other people play,
Yeah.
how dumb, or however you want to put it, does all of this seem from, like, the outside looking in? Like, how much noise does the whole Fortnite thing and the whole, like, BR esports explosion of the last year or two seem, as someone who's, like, gonna be gaming before this happened and after?
It kind of comes off as just like Milli Vanilli. It's like there's this
The ref.
yeah, it's like there's just this thing that shows up that everyone gets jazzed about, and then eventually it gets like it. You know, the CD player breaks on stage. Do you guys know what I'm talking
Yes,
about? Do you-
I'm old enough to know
okay,
Milli
Gabe,
Vanilli.
no,
No,
Gabe,
yeah.
no, but it's like
It was
girl,
the
you
year
know
I
it,
was
I'm
girl, you
14
know it.
years. Oh, is this the
It's
lip syncing
yeah, the
scandal?
lip syncing scandal.
Okay, I've
It-
heard about this.
Yeah, it's just like these big stars show up, and you know they're all. It seems like they just pump so much money into marketing whatever the next big fad is, and then they move on to the next one. Like, I've never played a battle royale game myself, but I know that PUBG was a thing that existed, and now it doesn't exist. I guess maybe, but Fortnite is that now, and I don't know the relationship of those things, but it seems like people just move on to the next one. And whoever their favorite influencer is backing, I forget who said this, but someone was saying that Fortnite isn't really an e-sport; it's an I-sport, like an influencer sport. I think this was
Wow.
actually
Yeah.
this was actually the Crimson Blur who said this. So I know
God
that.
damn it.
I know.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We
Look,
gotta.
Crimson Bro has a lot.
A broken clock is right twice
yeah,
a day. It's fine.
yeah. This
You-
was on like Ginger's stream or something. But it's like.
And we should do that in Melee, is how we finish that sentence.
That kind of is.
I'm sure,
what
I'm sure.
It's whatever. You know, it's these popular people who are like big with the kids, who play a game, and then everyone plays it as well, to do what the cool Twitch man's doing. And I don't see it as anything more substantial than that, other than just the fact that lots of people are playing it, and the fact that they turn it into this infinite money generating machine by having all of these like microtransactions. Like to me, all of these things, like all of this esports, all of this whatever, with all these free to play games, you know, as a RuneScape player, when I hear about microtransactions and about you know, free to play stuff, and you know what happened to RuneScape before they decided to wipe the whole slate clean and reboot it from 2007 or whatever with the old school thing, is that if something's free, then you're the product. And that's still true even in video games, if not especially true. And it's just, just like in MMOs where you have whales that get milked for endless profit, in the form of like, get the latest, boost your experience rates with magic keys or whatever. It's like Candy Crush. Like, to me, all these games are just like Candy Crush.
Do whales produce milk?
Milk?
I'm genuinely
I think they
curious
do,
because I've been
they're
thinking about it. They're
mammals. Yeah, they're
mammals.
mammals.
So like, and we're talking about
Yeah, they do
milking
that.
whales.
But to me, it all just comes off as Candy Crush. It's like there's like competitive games and there's single player games, and there's microtransaction games. There's Candy Crush.
You bring up two things that I think are really good and worth digging more into.
Thanks, gamer.
I like that you brought up the influencer economy and how it's kind of taken over Fortnite and gaming in general. And as someone who worked in media, which was also a bubble industry, digital media is still a bubble industry.
it was.
They cannot figure out how to monetize.
We're gonna pivot to video. and
Yeah,
we're gonna,
Again,
Yeah.
that was so weird.
Yeah.
3 years ago, they tried to do the influencer thing. I remember when we were throwing $5,000 at someone with 60,000 Instagram followers to like do a thing and drive traffic to whatever site I was working for at the time, and that was a sputtering failure that just gave a lot of hacks free money. And it didn't work for media, which was also a bubble. And there's no reason to assume that it will work for esports, which is also a bubble.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
great.
But to go back to the PUBG point, PUBG is at least a foil to Fortnite at current because it is a game that kind of stayed true to what it was and compared to Fortnite did actually listen to its competitive community and is having a stable within its own means life at the moment. Right.
Right, right.
The hype kind of got taken off of PUBG for Fortnite, and I think that liberated PUBG to just be a fucking game that people play,
Yeah.
which is nice. And I
Yeah.
think
Past the finish line.
as someone who plays and enjoys a game, maybe that's what we all want. Like,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
we want
We
the
all
hype
want
to
our
be the
esports
fuck
moment to.
Off. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
hype-
like
hype
leave
is
me
not-
alone and let me play my damn game. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, maybe the gamers were right all along. They just want to grill.
Yeah.
They're
Grow
sick
and
of all
chill.
this. Yeah.
No shill.
Yeah.
Wait, they just. What do you mean?
Oh, it's this.
They want a girl.
It's this image that
I don't-
a lot of
'cause there's the
no,
grill
it's just like
girl.
I don't care about all these politics. I just want to grill. And it's this like clip art guy with like the,
yeah, like boomer meme.
yeah,
Hell
it's like
yeah.
a boomer meme. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's like it's like a pump and dump thing. Like
Right.
they put all this hype into one game, and all the influencers play it, and they get a bunch out of it, and then they dump it or whatever, and then the people who actually like it might stay behind.
They're wrong. Because all those games are bad.
I mean, the people who play PUBG probably like
Actually,
it at
I've
this
heard
point.
good things about. I know some like diehard PUBGers. And
We can,
like,
we can take this assertion and plug it right into fighting games because 29 has been wild for fighting games in that there's a new one that everyone has to play every 3 months.
Yeah.
We had Soul Calibur come and go as fast as you could blink. MK just came out.
has MK gone already?
No, it's fine. It's
No, I know it's
probably
not
fine because it was an
bad. I just-
established scene beforehand, but we're going to have Sam Show in 2 months.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what's the fuck is next? We also had Ultimate in that cycle. There's so many fighting games, it's impossible to play one well. And it's such a boom bust that the window is getting shorter and shorter to the point where you ask the
Well, we know
question,
what the next one
is a
is.
game that came out 2 weeks ago already dead?
No, it's
And
going to
there's
be the Riot one, and they're going to have
Yeah.
a no-compete contract, and it's going to single-handedly destroy any sense of esports ship the rest of the FGC has, and then we'll be left with a pretty good scene.
Yeah, are we treating every fighting game that comes out as like effectively a trending topic on Twitter where it's like, whoa, for a week?
How much money do you think has to go into the Riot Games fighting game for Leffen to drop Melee for it, and then not be able to go back?
Leffen can always come back.
He
We all
can't.
know Leffen
He
can
will
always
be
come back.
contractually obliged not to be able to.
No, even if he got dropped by TSM, even if whatever happens, he's Leffen.
It's incredibly weird how the same people who are claiming that the Call of Duty League will be here in 20 years are also arguing that every single new hot, completely casual, like, has anyone ever tried to make GTA an esport? Because it's going to happen. The next time a
Yeah.
GTA drops and it's played by like 7 billion people, someone's going to say GTA Online should sponsor a circuit.
I'm going to go back to the iSport thing. GTA 5 Online is definitely an iSport.
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
It's just something where you go make silly videos. It's like a vlogger's paradise. Like if
Yeah.
I was a quadriplegic, I would like be an iSport athlete and just play GTA. Paraplegic, let's
I
say.
mean, I don't. So I hate
That's
hate
fair.
influencers.
It's stupid,
I hate
but-
iSports. I hate iMedia, but I also think that it is actually probably more stable than most of the other things that people are like betting on. Like, I do think people are actually more interested in Ninja on average than they are in the Overwatch League in general.
This is its own whole fucking episode about
course.
whether or not it is more practical to just be an influencer gamer than a competitive gamer in one game, because you can't account for the changes in that game that might fuck your whole career up.
Yes, you can.
So why would I... League.
You can play Melee.
It's true. Yeah, but a game like League that changes every 2 months
Right.
radically, why would I ever play a game competitively when, if I've built enough clout to have an audience, I could just be like, all right, guys, you tell me what to do. I'm going to go on GTA 5 and I'm play naked. Should I hit the other person with my car, or should I shoot him with a gun?
Exactly. And it's
Like,
also
that's
like
so much more sustainable.
Yeah, and it's also more sustainable when it's like when the hype, all this hype is here for Mortal Kombat 11, but when people are hyped for Samurai Showdown or whatever comes next, if you play Mortal Kombat 11, that's a problem for you. It's like whichever game is the hype game at that moment also has the most money going into it, and if you're an influencer, then you move directly with that and are always at the forefront. That's the bleeding edge that's bleeding out all the money.
Right. Yeah, and
You're
that's
literally
like-
a locust.
That's a good
Yeah.
point for like,
Yeah.
because like Sonic Fox is going to be fine, A, because he's really good at Mortal Kombat, and specifically in B, because he's really good at everything. But like every
'Cause he's just
other,
the best
like,
ever.
not even B tier, like A or even like lower S tier DBFZ player is just like, I haven't heard about them in like 6 months. Like, when was the last time you heard anyone say Goichi's name?
Not for a minute. But
And
that's also because there's been a dearth of DBFZ events of note, right? Like we had the final
Right, right.
summoning.
Yeah. Well, didn't it, they got canned for a while?
Yeah,
but
they
then
had
Yeah.
some
got
licensing
uncanned?
problems.
What was
Got
that?
In the wake
canceled.
in the wake of Jump Force, they had some licensing issues. They had another fighting game coming out in less than a damn year, right?
What,
DBZ
Jump
comes
Force?
out January 27th ish, 2018, right? Comes out. Jump Force comes out like November.
don't call that a
Right.
fighting game.
Yeah, but I'm saying for the people who need to make money selling the
Right.
game,
For the executives who
same
don't know the
licensing
difference.
companies who needed Jump Force to make its money back had to like stab the DBFZ esports engine in the fucking kidney to get people away from it, to get them to play Jump Force. I don't know. I don't understand the rationale there.
Well, there
They
isn't
were
a
assuming all
rationale
those people would
because
just jump ship to this
these are-
game because it's brand new.
No. That's not why. There isn't a rationale, because you're assuming that anyone making any of these decisions has any understanding of the FGC or literally anything involved in
Oh,
esports.
yeah, they don't give a shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
These are like old ass Japanese businessmen who don't know what the fuck is going on and are totally
I'm
convinced
sorry.
that
Have you ever made a fighting game? No.
yeah.
I'll never forget that Sakurai said that to a fan.
I guess the whole executive thing though goes back to the esports thing, because it's like all these guys are like, well, there's the word sport in it, and sports are really big, so esports are going to be really big, and the kids they like their video games, they like the Nintendo, and or whatever. That's how they talk.
Yeah.
As they
Was that
as
Mike
they say this.
Francesa?
The kids, they love the video games.
Thor should never pitch again. He played such a good game. He should retire right now.
But yeah, it's they see a lot of people doing a thing, and they're like, well, let's make money off of that thing by putting a bunch of money into it and making them, I don't know. It's like, I think the entire promise of esports is just like, well, esports is just like regular sports, and
But
regular
the
sports,
future-
yeah, and regular sports is big, and in the future it'll be way bigger. It's basically like how in the past science fiction was like, in the future we're all gonna have laser guns because that's high tech. When now we're in the future and bullets are just better.
They're so much better.
They're just,
Well, okay,
And
no,
every
no,
single-
but I kind of disagree with the analogy there. Not because bullets aren't better than laser guns. They are. They're also just,
Buffers are better.
they're cooler. They're also cooler. That's important.
but like,
You
it's
can
just
dodge
more
them.
practical.
That's why
theory.
Warhammer 40K is cooler than Star Wars. It's because people are still using bullets and not
just because
razor
I'm
guns.
sitting here and I own all the gear doesn't mean you have to flatter me.
But also because I actually do think long term, if we are still capable of creating computers, because we haven't just like mined all the rare minerals out of the earth, or like are all dead, esports will probably be big. Not necessarily bigger than regular sports, because there is always going to be an interest in like the genuine cutting edge of human ability in terms of like physical prowess, but I do think they'll be really big. And the mistake is that people, or not even the mistake, like I think people are saying that the $25 million buy into Call of Duty is the assumption that like any of the games we're playing now are the games that are going to be big in 20 years. And not even just like Melee isn't going to be big in 20 years. It's not even going to exist in 20 years just because we don't have enough
fucking TVs. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just
no,
don't
we
see
don't have
it.
enough youth outreach, and everyone is getting older, and just it's not even
You
like
can play
they're getting
Fortnite on your fucking
disenfranchised.
phone. Yeah, that's so huge. Like, that's it. Like, the next big game is going to be another game that you can play the same on your phone that you can on your computer, right?
Maybe.
Like,
But that's my
it's-
point. Like, it's not
Like,
going to be
why
any
isn't
of these
Magic
games.
Arena on a phone yet?
But my
Like,
point is like a $25 million investment in Call of Duty is based on the idea that esports is a growth industry, or at least that, and this is like the worst part, is like they could actually probably eventually sell that team or whatever to another investor for even more money. So like I'm not saying it was the wrong move by that mean, because like yes, if enough people buy into a pyramid scheme, it does actually make the first people who did it money. That doesn't mean it was a good financial decision to create that pyramid scheme.
Yeah, well, that's what they mean by getting it on the ground floor
Exactly.
of esports. Is get in on the first level of the pyramid scheme.
I'm glad you both use the term long term in there a bunch, because it feels like a lot of the esports investors and the esports means owners are, for lack of a better term, fucking to come. Like, they're just like, they see this opportunity, they're like, let's right now, like, boom, esports.
Yeah, but that's just because they want to feel important. That's not because it's going to make them money in the short term. Unless they
coming
can
makes you kind of feel like
Right.
it's nutting. Yeah.
She's anti-nut.
This is
Just-
lost on me.
Okay, that's fine. I mean,
The
listen.
point is they're like they're excited, and it's like it's not like a long term smart investment. But I think it's sold as one. I think the idea that like no one's saying you're gonna make an immediate return on $25 million in CS:GO.
Yeah.
In COD, but like the idea is that like down the line esports will be big enough that that'll mean anything, but it's like there's no guarantee that putting money into COD now is going to mean anything for like whatever the fuck alternate reality porn esport exists in 2050 that everyone plays, and we're just linked up to Soma drip feeds.
It all just feels like they want to run before they walk to like a
Yeah.
really ridiculous extent.
because they have
And
too much money to
Something I
not.
will assert as a counterexample is Major League Soccer, which is, for all intents and purposes, a third-rate professional soccer league.
A
here in
retirement
America.
home for European professionals.
It's not a particularly compelling league, but it started off modest. It started off with a handful of teams, tiny stadiums, meager fan bases, horrible salaries, no fucking money. I heard a player, I do some work for MLS, and a player that I work with said that his salary his first year was $12,000. Right? So
Hell
it was
yeah.
a side job. He was a professional soccer player. It was a fucking side job. But that's because that's what the league had to be at that time,
Right.
because they knew if they were going to get where they wanted to go, they had to be modest, and they had to not put themselves in a hole so dig that they had to dig out of it before they could ascend. And now they're doing great. Now they have real teams. They can occasionally court talent from other countries,
Or, like,
and they're expanding.
influencers.
Yeah, they're expanding. They're building bigger stadiums. They're hitting markets that can be hit. And I respect Overwatch League for trying to do that regionally to some extent, because, like, guess what? You can go to a sports dry city like Portland, where they have the Blazers and the Timbers, and that's fucking it. And you can be like, here's your Overwatch League team, and you might get interest around that. But, like, it still feels like they're jumping the gun. It still feels like they
Dude, I
didn't
wanna
go
see
through that
all of the,
initial
like-
step of trial and error where the price of error wasn't so steep. Like, if they
Right.
fucked up a team or a league as MLS in 2008, they were prepared for it because they weren't paying out.
Well, but
and they
that's-
weren't promising.
But that's the thing. All these people have so much money that this isn't actually a risk to them.
That's
I mean,
fair.
like you can lose $25 million, and it's like, yeah, like they all would rather be like on the ground floor of the next big thing than like actually look at a risk reward ratio of making $25. But there's also like, I don't like this amount of wealth in society that's concentrated at the top at the moment means that there is actually another 100 idiots who could throw $30 million to buy your franchise team. So like the worst part of this is like, I think these are terrible business decisions that will probably be rewarded. And I hate that.
Yep.
So,
It
like, I
takes
guess
money
they're
to
not
make
bad.
money. Yeah.
But like no one's at no point are we actually creating like at no point is esports itself actually like a popular industry that is profitable on its own merit. It's just a playground for future obsessed speculation nerds to like assume that other people are going to be, get hot on it and then sell it to them. And like, I don't know, that sucks.
Let's do an around the horn to cap off this piece before we get Ratchet for the finale.
Oh shit, it has been.
Will these leagues work in some capacity long enough?
In 20 years?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
The entire world is going to look so different in 20 years that the idea of like individual esports, not even like esports as a whole, just individual games or leagues existing 20 years from now, like, I don't know. I think my prediction is like Overwatch goes free to play within the next 5 years and lasts maybe 10 at most. Call of Duty, I have no idea because that doesn't even exist yet, so I don't know why there's any reason to believe it's going to be hype. I don't think people are still invested in Call of Duty. I don't think people were ever invested in Call of Duty as a competitive brand. It was a casual player base. I don't think, and I don't know, what was the other one? What was the other?
I mean, they were talking about LCS, which is a lot better at living with its means, but
LCS
dangerously close to
might-
being completely overtaken by Dota at this point.
Yeah.
Dota's having another moment.
Interesting that Dota
Has
never
a lot of moments.
I guess it's because I think it's also all predicated on the backwards idea that these companies will prop these up because they're putting a lot of money into them, rather than these things are not inherently profitable and only exist as a marketing tactic for a vibrant game that people will watch these things and then go buy the skins the pros are wearing for. So as soon as these see any drop in player base, you're not going to see these things get pushed as an esport. Like, if no one was playing Fortnite casually, there would be no interest in it as an esport. And that's why none of them will last, is because they're not going to last. They're not going to last as games, so they're definitely not going to last as esports.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say they are going to last because I think the too big to fail thing is right, where they're going to just burn the fucking thing down to save it. And I think that's going to mean that we're going to get Overwatch 2 in like 3 years, because that's what Blizzard does. That's what Blizzard was always fucking
They have
about.
done StarCraft 2.
They will just go, oh, this thing, we're just going to re-release it again, fuck you.
Well,
and that's something that EA's done, and that's something they've done with COD for years.
Well,
COD is extremely adept at being like, here's a new game every 8 months.
Well,
full price, please and thank you.
I mean, that is like the worst part. Is like, even if I can say like they shouldn't, there's no reason for them to last 20 years.
It's bad and it sucks, but they're going to make it work.
These people could totally afford to just throw trillions of dollars down the line, just burn it, trying
And between
to make
scale and
themselves feel
inflation, they're
important.
fine.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe it could, but like it shouldn't.
The critical difference between like will Overwatch be around in 20 years and like, I don't know, MLS soccer, is that soccer has been being played for like hundreds and hundreds of years, and people grow up in an environment where like it's like, okay, there are two things about traditional sports that make it different from esports, in my opinion, in terms of like how big can they be and whatever. The first is that like physical sports are things that people just kind of do. Like, people don't naturally just start doing computer games because you need to have like computers and all of that to like exist. And all of this is old as fuck, and like that's why people still play it. But there, as long as software is the medium through which all these things are happening, I don't think that anybody, like, you can develop software way faster than you can develop like
The human body.
the human body and like the physical like musculature and like whatever like prowess that's necessary to like play all these sports. And it's just like the iteration will always just keep happening. So I don't think that Overwatch is going to be around in 20 years unless we stop making new video games.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, as long as we keep making new video games,
Which you could sell me on. That would be good.
yeah.
I'm kidding.
Well, I feel that too. But as long as people are still making video games, people are going to move on to another video game because it happens quicker than anything physical possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it just doesn't make any sense. The other thing is that sports are centralized and esports are not. Like, video games are not. Like, your interaction with soccer as a non-soccer player, or even as like a quote unquote casual soccer player who like plays with your friends in the park or whatever, is like you do that, but then also you watch like professionals do it. And professional soccer is like this thing that some people aspire to, and it's the main like focus. But for casual gamers, for casual people who play, Call of Duty in their living rooms or whatever with Cheeto dust on their hands, like their interaction with Call of Duty begins and ends in that living room and in that like moment
On the hot couch.
And there's no
COD is
like
the hot couch esport.
I don't even know. Do I know that? Is the hot couch a thing?
It's
Yes,
like a
it's
bit
very
where like
thick. You
like
intuitively
scummy
understand
dude
it
in high
because-
school with a hot couch
because it's so powerful an image. Like, you know what
Yeah.
we mean.
But yeah, it's like scenes for video games are like my friend Timmy's house and everyone who goes to Timmy's house. And there are so many Timmy's houses all over the world. That's the center of that local quote unquote esports scene. You know what I mean? It's like coming from Melee, when everyone's growing up, there's like your power rankings of like you and all your friends and everyone you know. And there are so many of those scenes that exist. And that is where it all like begins and ends for the vast majority of people who play these games. The professional environment, like the esports environment, is completely secondary and completely exists outside of just how anyone even plays these things.
Especially for shit like Fortnite.
And that's why like the whole influencer sport thing happens, because it's like, well, you play what all these famous people are playing with your friends, but you still don't care about the professional scene because it's just like,
Well-
I just want to beat fucking
No, and that's a
Hank
really
Wimbledon or whatever down the block.
that's a really interesting point, is that like people who are playing Fortnite don't want to be the name of whatever collegiate kids won Fortnite. They want to be Ninja. And the reason Ninja's popular is because it's basically like having your friend you're playing Fortnite
it's the
with
new
in
being
your
a
room.
SoundCloud rapper. Like
Yeah,
kids are like
that's
starting
exactly
a
it.
Twitch and they're playing Apex and they're like, yo, dude, like, and all their usernames are their Twitches and they're streaming on Twitch, and like everyone's kind of chasing that because there is really not much separating me from Ninja, right?
Right.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
he
It is a
yells while he
SoundCloud
plays a
rap
game
thing.
and he just happens to be a little bit better. That's fine.
And for me, it's that he's not Jewish. That's how
It's true. I have
Name
have
one
no
Jewish
idea.
esport influencer.
Wow, it's
kidding.
messed up. But yeah, I don't know. And
We'll
the
get
whole,
Amari
the sound-
Stoudemire, the old the Black Israelite New York Knicks player, to like just hop on Twitch.
Yeah.
That'll count.
I don't know. Here's the other thing though, is like the SoundCloud rapper thing is kind of accurate, because there's this whole thing in like the SoundCloud rapper, like the mumble rap world, where like so and so is an industry plant, like, you know what I mean? Where they're like, this person is blowing up out of nowhere, like the
gonna
music
get-
industry picked them up and they're pumping a bunch of money
I'm gonna
into
get
them.
I'm gonna get a face tattoo so that I can't get a real job, so I have to focus on Twitch streaming
Yeah.
instead of
Yes.
SoundCloud rap.
Oh my
yes,
God.
dude, that's what
Dude.
we're doing. We're
Okay.
all gonna get the same face tattoo.
All right. Thank you for listening to whatever this was. We'll be back eventually.
And it'll be
And-
better.
Yeah.
Not that this was bad.
I think that you will enjoy yourselves in the future, if not the present.
We're just gonna do it a little more focused next time.
And obviously, we have our opinions, and if you have yours, catapult them our way. Bush did 9/11.